Hello, everyone, hopefully from all over the world. I am not Dr. Anita Polite Wilson, but I am honored to be here co-hosting sort of with her for this very special edition of her incredible podcast, Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita. She is your trusted C-suite advisor, and I am her trusted friend and C-suite member, and I am just thrilled to welcome you all today. Most of you know by now, but hopefully you have some incredible new viewers who may not know that Dr. Anita she is an elite team strategist. What she does is absolutely incredible. She serves on a number of boards, prepping businesses to navigate culture, complexity, and change. So you know her work is very, very busy. We want to welcome Dr. Anita to sit in the hot seat and be interviewed today. It may not be hot, maybe just lukewarm. We'll see. No, it's always hot when we keep it real here. Yes, because we are celebrating a really incredible milestone in her business life. And everyone, give a little congratulations. No, a big one. It is Dr. Anita's 7th anniversary of this incredible podcast. Incredible. If we were live streaming, we'd give all kinds of emojis, right? We'd be cheering and everything. Go ahead and still cheer. Clap. It's phenomenal because this is a great milestone. And so we are going to talk about several things. And one of the big things is how she made it this far, how she survived, because many businesses don't to this point, and what she is doing to survive and thrive in this incredibly and fast-paced shifting landscape that we're in right now. So welcome to your own show, Dr. Anita.
Well, thank you, Kelly. And thank you, community, for joining us for this special series of real conversations from the C-suite. Kelly, I'm so excited that you're here doing this with me. We did this a couple of years ago for my 5th anniversary. And there's just so much life and vim and vigor that you bring. And it's just jumping out of the screen. So thank you for doing this with me. And I wish I could say I've had my podcast for 7 years. It's been maybe 3 or 4, but the business has been around for 7 years. And I'm excited to have you host me and ask me anything you like.
Fabulous. And yes, thank you for that correction. I did mean her whole business, not just the podcast, but we are lucky to have this podcast on. It is incredible. I want to start with just some statistics. Does that sound boring? Well, guess what? It's not. I was doing a bit of research on this because 7 years in business, I was like, that has to be tough. And it is. I was doing some research with the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and it estimates that roughly 57% of businesses fail in the first 7 years. So that's more than half of all businesses, and that's quickly ramping up to 60%. That means, Dr. Anita, that your business has beat a ton of other business. Not that it's a competition, there's room for everyone.
Right.
But what it is saying is that everyone doesn't make it.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. Why is it that your business has survived? And to what or whom do you attribute some of that success to making this milestone?
The grace of God, to be perfectly honest. I never started out to be an entrepreneur, just like I never started out to pursue my PhD. It was just something that was impressed upon me. And when my last company or my last employer decided to take their human resources department in a different direction, and I found myself invited to be successful elsewhere, I thought, you know what? With all the degrees, the certifications, the education, the experience, the enthusiasm that I have for this work, let me find the clients that I resonate with, that are serious about doing the work in the way I approach it. And I'll never forget, I had several people tell me, oh, you're so, incredible. I couldn't do it. And I'm thinking, I don't see what the big deal is. And one day my mother said, you're so brave. And I said, I don't see it as bravery. I see it as taking the path of least resistance for my soul, because I was tired of always having to prove why I was doing what I did worked, or having to justify the approach. Even though you're paying me for this, why am I still having to constantly reinforce the value that I bring to the table? Yeah. And so for my soul, it was easier for me to go with clients that already recognize that value and said, yes, we want to take a chance in partnering with you. Come on in and help us, walk alongside us. So I'm here by the grace of God. It wasn't anything that I ever aspired to. And in that 7 years, it has been a challenge. It has not always been fun. I mentioned in the run up to our conversation today that there were days where there were slow contracts. There were days where there were no contracts. There were days when the landscape shifted subtly and suddenly. And all of that, I'm just still grateful to be here. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm looking for at least another 7 more.
Well, I applaud your mother for her correctness because that is incredibly brave. You know why it's brave? Because to understand what the path of least resistance for your soul, to fuel your soul, that means you have to be truly connected with who you are and what you need. And that is not an easy thing to do for people, particularly as you talk about slow contracts and no contracts. We often look at success as the money, right?
Right.
Show me the money. That's what we say. If we have this amount of money, this amount of clients, we are successful. We really look in terms of the world that success is often measured by revenue and sometimes by recognition, but we're hoping that recognition leads to revenue. But in those times when we're not being recognized and we don't have recognition or revenue, how can we feel successful?
This is an interesting question. And just yesterday, I was mentoring a young woman that I recently met at a mixer. I was so impressed with her. I said, you know what, if you have any questions, if you ever need some encouragement, just reach out to me. And she took me up on it. And so first, let me say, community, if I invite you to reach out to me, take me up on it, because I don't say things offhand, right? But to your point about influence, I was helping her understand that we've got influencers now. People have a career out of being an influencer. And I said, there's a distinction between being an influencer because you've got thousands or perhaps millions of people following you just because everybody else is following you.
Yes.
And the difference in being an influencer because people feel connected to you, they resonate with you, they can relate to who you are as a person and what you're trying to do in the world. To me, that's the type of influence that I prefer to have. And I am excited to say that, at least once a week, 3 or 4 other people follow me on LinkedIn. Very recently, a very, very dear friend of mine asked me to write the foreword for his book. That's the type of influence that makes my heart sing and lets me know, yes, my voice is valued and my approach is appreciated.
Yes. Yes. Incredible. That's something I think that more and more we need to talk about, the different types of influences is that really matter, because we can get swayed one way or another. And I think when people don't understand really the authenticity of who they are and the type of influence that really matters and has value to them, we can sometimes make choices that maybe don't meet with our standards, that maybe don't meet with our true integrity, our true worth, because we're doing something just to sort of be popular. I mean, it seems like such a high school thing to say, but when you look at it, it's this many likes and this many followers, and that's what fuels us and says we're successful. You have a quote that I love. You attribute it to Maya Angelou. I thought I was a Maya expert, and I didn't know this one, so thank you for mentioning it. I want to make sure I get it right. You said, or that Maya said, "I can be changed by what happens to me. I can be, but I refuse to be reduced by it." What does that mean to you?
Wow, that's a really personal one that I just recently found. And part of this work to keep it real, to be transparent, to be authentic with my community is it will take its toll on you. When I looked at the first interview that you and I did 5 years ago, and I look at myself today, I can see things that other people may or may not see about myself, because the work does take its toll on you. And if I could leave folks with any message, it would be specific to the shifting landscape around diversity, inclusion, and belonging, which is the 3 areas that I focus on. We don't have to make it about race. Now, don't get me wrong. That's an important part of it. That's why we've had civil rights and all the things that go with it. But if we could just treat each other like human beings. One of my dearest mentors, who's since passed, he wrote a book about human affirming behaviors. And what drives me when I work with other leaders is to make sure that I don't treat anybody the way a leader poorly treated me. That's just about recognizing folks as human beings, whatever your packaging looks like, whoever you love, however you do, whatever you do, are we treating one another as human beings? And for me, that's the essence of the work, and everything that goes along with it. It's part and parcel for trying to do it in a way that's thoughtful, in a way that's inclusive, in a way that's influential, in the right ways, helping people to know and grow, avoiding shame and blame, making sure that I'm not insisting that my message is right, but making sure that I'm delivering a message that can be received in a way that people are still thinking about it after they left my presence, or after they've read a book of mine or a quote of mine or listened to a podcast of mine. So for me, that's what it means. Even though the work has taken its toll on me, it doesn't mean that I'm reduced. As a matter of fact, I'm being seasoned and shaped in a different way, that those challenges, had I not gone through them, I would not have had the benefit of of evolving the way I have, even though it hasn't always been fun.
Yep. And that's part for me, why I was just so inspired by you from the very first moment we met. The keeping it real is not a slogan. It is
Mhm.
real.
Mhm.
And I have often listened to podcasts or listened to speakers that people say, oh, you have to listen to this person. And I go, I just feel like they're saying a script. I feel like I'm not even connected. Like, who are they really? Is this just like an idea of who they are because they think this sells? And from the moment I spoke to you, I was like, oh, she's real. She says what needs to be said, even if it's hard for her to say, if it's hard for me or viewers or listeners to hear, we get to the truth. And I think that's how we can really step into our destiny. Once we really get to the truth of who we are, the truth of what our situation is, the truth of what we're afraid of, what our imposter syndrome or nerves or what have you, what our challenges may be. Well, I think it's James Baldwin said something to the degree of not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And what you do is help us face things. That is how we can affect change. And we maybe not change everything, but we can't even, get the car started.
Right. Right. I love your analogies.
If we don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of change, as we're talking about this, and I know we just said, not everything isn't about race, and it isn't, but as we talk about DEI, and it makes me laugh because sometimes people that I've spoken to, I work in a very diverse workplace, lots of different perspectives, and people are like, yeah, we're done worrying about this race issue. I'm like, do you know that diversity isn't just about Black and brown people?
Thank you.
Do you know that it's about my friend at the office who's in a wheelchair, but, you don't have an elevator for him to use, that, there's so many different things. Our newer diverse colleagues from different types of backgrounds, colleagues who may be going through abuse at home, who are navigating mental health challenges, things like that, who are getting on their feet. There's so many different ways. And to me, it just means making sure we really bring humanity into the workplace. That's what it's always meant to be. We can put any letters or words or whatever, but that's what it means, bring humanity.
Yep.
But the landscape is shifting in America. I'd love for you to talk us through what that means to you personally and for your business. And do you have any takeaways for us? Because it's a little bit of a scary time right now for many of us.
It's a very scary time. And in terms of my business, I did a series last year about the evolution of my business. And we're going to be re-releasing that shortly because it's about 8 main things. I actually have my notes. So it's about, first of all, the global interest in DEI post 2020, post George Floyd, and how everyone was paying attention to it. Some of it was very personal. Some of it was performative. Some of it was popularity based. And we just can't live life like that, let alone have values that are so fluid that people are kind of looking at you like, well, are you serious or not? And the ones that were performative, people are seeing through that. And I think the companies that were performative in the work, those are probably the ones that are backing off now saying, oh, well, because of what's going on in the administration, we can't do that.
Right.
But there are other companies, this is the foundation. It's built into their DNA and they're going to keep doing it because not only is it the right thing to do, and Kelli, you know this, but there are too many studies that say, and it is good for the bottom line. So
absolutely, it's good for the green, the color that matters the most to them, the money.
And I often say that regardless of the color of the person's pocket that the money's coming out of, it's all green. So make the decision that you want to make. But if it's really about the money, then it's about the money. And then the downshift in the prioritization of DEI.
Yes.
I really can't explain that because if you're going to be a global player, then you're just going to have to consider that everyone is a potential vendor or client, right? Yes, or client or what have you. And so you need to think about that. And then when we talk about right now, the hesitancy in the organization, it really is about finding a language that works. And so if those 3 initials of DEI bother you, and I just did this exercise with a client a couple of months ago, then how can I help you, the client, lean more into the values that you espouse at work? If these 3 letters, DEI, or whatever combination of letters or labels you now find uncomfortable, let's lean into your values. And hopefully that's something that you can sincerely do. And let's find a way to make those values demonstrable and not just something that you say. And so that brings me to where the business is right now. I am refocusing on leadership and culture because regardless of the titles or the terminology, those are the foundations of a business. And if we can go back to focusing, as what we said earlier, on human affirming behaviors, then we can still make it regardless of what's going on in the administration, regardless of who's pulling back, regardless of who is still doing the work, but, and I hate to use this word, but covertly because of their concerns, can we just lean into our values? Can we just go back to being values-driven organizations that are still mindful of the bottom line? And so for me, that's where the business has been going for the past couple of years, and that's where I'm focusing now.
That's great. And I think that's a good call out to these businesses, because the truth is, are you getting buried in semantics, or are these really your values, or aren't they?
That's right.
Becomes the question, because you can still do the same work. A rose by any other name, right? Is still a rose.
Still a rose. That's right.
So is this kind of covert for, I never really wanted to do the work in the first place, but it was
there. It is.
Bad, so
yes. And
now with my get out of jail free card, I get to say, oh, I can't because of the administration.
But to that point right there, I have stopped, saying, well, what's your why? I have started asking, what's your why not? Is it because that you really don't want to do it? Is it because that it's uncomfortable? Is it because that you really have to analyze your processes, your procedures, and your policies? What is your true why not? And if it's because you don't want to, okay,
say so.
Then I'm not the consultant for you, because I don't help you check boxes, but I am here to help you change your cultural behaviors if that's what you want to do.
If that's what you want. And if it's not,
point, you need to ask yourself what you want, and be real about the answer.
Be real. Don't be afraid. Be real.
Yep.
That's the bottom line with everything Dr. Anita does. This was a wonderful, wonderful chat. Everyone, we're challenging you and challenging your workplace. Ask them, what is your why not? Why aren't you doing these things, these values that you espouse? Just tell me the truth. Whatever it is, be bold and courageous enough to tell the truth and to keep it real.
Yep.
All right. Well, I can't wait to talk to you some more. Everyone, remember, as the wise and brilliant Dr. Anita always says, please stay in the flow, FLO. You know what that means, by following her, by liking her, and by oversharing, not just sharing, oversharing. You can't share this with enough people. Any podcast that helps reframe hot topics and conversations from difficult to different, right? We don't have to talk about it being difficult. There's nothing wrong with different. Let's talk about it. So until next time, keep people on their toes, help keep them all real. This is Kelli and Dr. Anita reminding you to stay blessed and to keep it real.